So thank you for contributing. So Jackie and so now I'm gonna pass it on to Phil. So Phil, as many other speakers that have spoken today, he has been a contributor for the last 4 or 5 years. He spoke at, I want to say he started in 2019, and he gave a talk last year, and 3 weekends ago he gave the workshop on wireless hacking and defense, and that's the reason why 75 people show up on a Saturday without pizza, without anything. They just show up for the thing, and that's actually impressive, especially here. I have to say, when you go to an event during the week, sponsored by a company, you're always expecting that the pizza, the beer, sometimes you don't really go for the learning experience or what you're gonna learn. But again, three weekends ago, 75 people show up. We not anticipated that many people. We did not have pizza. We don't have even drinks. We just have what we, knowledge, and that's the thing that we provide. And well, in this case, Phil provided, and it was awesome. With that, we're trying to do a class, in 2024. So it's gonna be a 2-day class on wireless penetration testing. And correct me if I'm wrong, Phil, if you go to that class, I guess you are kind of certified, kind of like your BL3 card, is that?
You'll be very knowledgeable.
Yeah, well, you'll get something so people will not, or in this case, will
defend it.
Yes, with lawyers. Anyways, with that, I got Phil, and thank you so much for everything, man. I really appreciate it, and bring it on.
All right. Okay. Thank you. As Marco mentioned, I did a talk on Wi-Fi. I went through a lot more basics in the session. I believe it's going to be on YouTube. Yeah, it should be on YouTube. Thank you. All right, let's do this. So this is the company I work for. You can watch the video. This is me. You can watch the video. This is how you can get hold of me. You can find it on the video. This is important. What I tell you today, you go and do something stupid, it's your fault, not mine, not Marco's, and not Pacific Hackers, right? Because there's like about 100 of you, and I said this before, 10 to 1 rule is usually 10% will do something stupid. So what I'm going to tell you about today is real stuff that you can do to attack and defend your Wi-Fi. And when you talk to hackers and crackers, they aren't going to break into your company dressed as an elevator shaft repair person. They're going to attack you via Wi-Fi from half a mile away. All right. So having safe Wi-Fi is very, very important in 2023. As Marco mentioned at the top, we had the workshop. We are going to do a follow-on workshop probably in the middle of the year, and it's going to be more of a hands-on. We didn't get to do as much hands-on in that session as I would have liked. So bring your Kali Linux and your external USB Wi-Fi cards, and we'll see if we can do some more demos in the hands-on. So limited theory, hands-on. Number 3 is today, and as Marco mentioned, we are going to do a 1 or 2, hopefully 2-day class in the new year about more theory, more practice, and more hands-on. So let's talk about it. Basic security premise. Inconvenience is a hacker's best friend, right? The more inconvenient you make, I am sick and tired of having to log in every 4 days on my company web email. It's just so inconvenient, but it's secure, okay? So anytime I say inconvenience, you are more than welcome to feel free to shout out at me. Excuse me. Inconvenience is a hacker's best friend. I don't believe that we are paranoid enough. Mrs. Gump said it, you can't fix stupid. True, but you can help it some. And in general, with passwords, longer is generally better than complex. When you have a Wi-Fi, you've got to find the Wi-Fi. Okay? You've got to connect to the Wi-Fi. And then you have security options in the Wi-Fi. Contrary to what you may have heard, this one here, the Authenticate, has got nothing to do with security. Knock, knock, knock. Can I come in? That's all you're doing. So when you authenticate to an access point, it's got nothing to do with security. So you connect to the AP, then you are secure. Okay. All right. The history of security with Wi-Fi, WEP was very easy to break. WPA was a short-term fix to WEP while we worked on something better. WPA2 was the solution, and that's where we are today. You really shouldn't be using WEP. Is anybody using WEP? Top tip, never ever answer that question with a yes. Don't volunteer that information. How many of you use pre-shared keys? Don't tell me. Don't tell me, all right? This is literally the end of my talk now. WPA3, that's all you need to know. Go use WPA3, go use it now. I've got another 45 minutes to go, but basically that's the solution. All right, just as an overview, the key concept, pardon the pun, in the wireless world is the PMK, okay, Pairwise Master Key, pardon the pun. That is the key to everything. How you get it and what you do with it is how Wi-Fi works. That key is learned on the client on the far left, the supplicant, and it is learned on the right-hand side on the AP, the authenticator. They then do what's called the four-way handshake. The four-way handshake exchanges random numbers, it exchanges MAC addresses, and then takes the PMK, mixes them all together, and creates the pairwise transient key that the keys you will use in Wi-Fi. Okay, that's all you need to know for now. So what I want to do now is I want to do a deep dive into the four-way handshake at a bit level in hexadecimal. Really? On a Saturday afternoon? Last thing? No. Let's explain Wi-Fi hacking to a 10-year-old who can understand it. All right? For that, I will need my antenna, which will double up as my Harry Potter one. All right. So, Wi-Fi hacking through the magic of Harry Potter. All credit given to the Harry Potter company. So, the first question you have to ask is, are you a good witch or are you a bad witch? Thus said Galinda from the Wizard of Oz. Okay? How are you going to use your skills? Are you going to use them to defend, or are you going to use them to attack? So the first thing you have to do is you have to learn the spells and the counter spells of the Harry Potter world of hacking. How many Harry Potter fans? You are allowed to put your hands. How many Harry Potter fans? How many real Harry Potter fans? Yes, right here. Me too. How many read the book Harry Potter fans? Ah, okay, yeah. Okay. So the first spell you'll be familiar with is Accio. Accio password. Okay. Tools that can be used to do that are Wi-Fi, Flexion, Airgeddon, and Wi-Fi Pumpkin. Heads up, if you were using pre-shared key, it's only a matter of time until I break your password. The end. Okay. And it's a function of power. If I go onto Amazon Web Services and hire an array of graphics cards, it's going to speed up me breaking your password. Okay. What we have next? Imperial. Now, Imperial, what's special about Imperial, Harry Potter fans? It's an unforgivable curse, right? There are certain unforgivable curses. What Imperial does is puts the target under the control of the caster. Okay. So we have Cain and Abel. Anybody remember Cain? Anybody been doing this long enough to remember Cain and Abel? Yeah, that's been a long time. Ettercap, and of course Better. So that puts the target under your control, and it's a person in the middle, man in the middle attack. Then we have another unforgivable curse, the Crucial curse. Okay, this is some kind of denial of service attack. You can just the sheer volume of information you send, the protocol you use, the application, you can do like a ping attack, you can do an IP attack, all sorts of attacks. Or you can reset the TCP packets attack just by sending the sheer volume of information you send. Okay, so this inflicts pain on the target. And then there's the absolute unforgivable curse of Avada Kedavra, which is better if I do it with my wand. Now this will deauthenticate, it will kill the connection of the user. You can actually Avada Kedavra the entire network. All right, everybody, I'm Marco. The session is over. You all have to leave now. You're all still sat there because I'm obviously not Marco, right? Okay, everybody, you have to disconnect from me. I'm your AP, and you all disconnect from me. There's no like, well, you don't look like my AP. You're like, oh, okay, and you all disconnect. Okay, so it's like me saying, everybody leave, and you all get up and leave because you just believe me. There is no defense against this until you get into like WPA3 and advanced things. So if you are using WPA2 and I send the de-authentication, which is very easy to do, we did it. How many of you came to the hacking event with Wi-Fi? How many of you got this working? A lot of you, right? Yeah. So it's real easy to do. You just simply broadcast, leave, and everyone gets up and leaves. Now, if I want to break into your network, I will de-authenticate your legitimate network, and then I will create a copy of your network and try and see if I can fool you into connect to me. Okay, and some of you start to go, you can't do that to me, Phil. I use WPA2 Enterprise. Yeah, just wait. All right. Now there are defensive spells as well. 802.LMW, also known as PMF, MFP, Protection of Management Frames, Management Frame Protection. Okay, it makes an object impervious. It makes an object impervious to attack. And if you run the 802.LMW protocol on your network, it makes you impervious to the de-authentication attack. What's the bad news? Well, the clients aren't supported, right? That old client you got from 10 years ago. I mean, how many of you work with warehousing? Anybody work in warehousing? I bet you, if you do, and you're not putting your hands up because you're afraid to put your hand up, they said, sorry. If you work in warehousing, you have clients called barcode scanners that do not support 802.LMW. You have barcode scanners that do not support 802.LMAC that came out in 2013, to be honest with you. Right? I'm not going to risk saying they don't support N, but somebody in here is going, oh, my barcode scanners don't support N. Yeah. And if you be only barcode scanners, we need to talk, frankly. Of course, Obscuro in Harry Potter world, it conjures a blindfold, hopefully on your adversary. This protects your data from being seen. So here we're talking about encryption, ideally AES encryption with WPA3. You'll learn in a little while why WPA3, because I can break your encryption on WPA2 very easily, right? So that's a little bit of help for Harry Potter. Oh, I forgot about this one. And of course, the output is to run a WIPS. You can run a WIPS at home, in the office, by running Kismet on a Raspberry Pi. Buy a Raspberry Pi, plug it into a monitor, get a keyboard, and you can run Kismet free of charge, but install Kali Linux. Well, you can install Kismet as well. That takes a while since they download Kali Linux. Run Kali Linux on a Raspberry Pi, run Kismet, and it will tell you if people are doing basic wireless attacks against you. Okay. Oh, I forgot this one as well. Expecto Patronum. Powerful projection of hope and happiness that drives away dementors. Use a VPN, right? So whenever you're out of the office, use a VPN, Phil. And when you're at home, what did Uncle Phil say? Whenever you're out of the office, you have an enterprise class laptop that you use in work. Just maybe when you're at home or at your relative's house, maybe you should still use a VPN. Okay, and so credit to Harry Potter and Harry Potter World. Here's a list of the Harry Potter spells you can use. So let's talk now about security. Okay, so wireless, when configured correctly, is as safe as Ethernet. I'm going to pause for dramatic effect and emphasize that wireless, when configured correctly, is as safe as Ethernet, if not safe. So wireless, Wi-Fi. So I use the word wireless and Wi-Fi interchangeably. Technically, I should use Wi-Fi, and I'm talking about the 802.11 IEEE Wi-Fi protocols, wireless protocols, that the Wi-Fi Alliance referred to as Wi-Fi. But I'm talking about the Wi-Fi that you have on your iPhone, your laptop, the home Wi-Fi, the home Wi-Fi router, right? And I hate being called up. That's a story for another day. Problem is, you broadcast everything into the air. not using the Ethernet broadcast term, but a radio broadcast like a television and like a radio. So everybody and anybody can receive that data. So the key is you have to encrypt the data so people can't decrypt it. Okay? Now, just because you cannot hear the signal outside a certain area, outside your building, doesn't mean that I can't hear it with my antenna, because my antenna is a little bigger than your antenna. This is a highly directional antenna. I could probably hear you a mile away and decrypt your data. But you can't hear it outside your building because you're using the little antenna that's in that thing. So bigger antenna, right? I can hear you better. All right. So there really are monsters in the world, and we protect our users from them by securing the Wi-Fi. So Werner Vogels once said, dance like nobody watching, but encrypt like everybody is. Good advice. All right, foundational information. You connect, you start off in state 1, unauthenticated, unassociated, then you authenticate. Knock, 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 can I come in? That's all that does. The most usual response from an access point when a client asks, can I authenticate, is yes. You then associate. That's important. When you associate with an AP, you belong to that AP. You can only associate with one AP. Okay? An AP can have multiple clients associated, but a client can only associate with one AP. You are now in the authenticated and the associated state. What happens now is dependent on the security that you have. There are 2 ways to use Wi-Fi, according to the Wi-Fi Alliance, with security and without security. Okay, simple. Without security, it's not a big deal. It's what you use every time you go to Google Starbucks. Starbucks, you order a drink, you are not using security. Okay, you connect to the Wi-Fi. A lot of you are probably connected now to HackerDojo free. Okay, you didn't have a passphrase, you didn't log in with a username and password. Okay, that's no security. Okay, typically you don't leave that open. And you usually do some kind of captive portal, like in a hotel or in a coffee shop, where they say, you know, click this checkbox to promise you won't download illegal copies of Spider-Man 3 or something. Or it may say, enter your room number and your last name, or it may say, put in a username and password, put in your email, put in your telephone number, or it may say, buy some tokens so you have credit to operate on the Wi-Fi. Okay. So that's open. WPA2 is personal or enterprise, and it really is personal or enterprise. Personal is what you use in your house for the kids to connect to the Apple TV, to share their videos and play the games. Enterprise is what you use in the office. Unfortunately, personal is used a lot in the office environment, but it's okay, Phil. It's okay, Phil. You can't see the network outside our building, but we've already covered that, right? I can. Okay. So, if you use without security, it's very important to understand you do not have any security. If you don't run the 4-way handshake, you do not have any security. Okay. So only if you use personal or enterprise do you have security and you have encryption. Now, how strong that encryption is, actually the encryption is incredibly strong. How strong the data that is the key is a more important point. So WPA2 personal is when you put a passphrase, may the force be with you, on the client and on the infrastructure. Nice and simple. You probably all do this at home. I doubt very much if anybody has enterprise. Does anybody have enterprise at home? I do, because I work in the industry, right? So at my home, we have enterprise grade security. Well, on my network, we do. The kids still use pre-shared key. Personal, WPA2 personal, also known as pre-shared key, is completely safe. Pause for dramatic effect. And I can't even keep a straight face when I do this. As long as you change the password every 30 days, as long as you change the password when someone leaves the company, they've left the company. They know the passphrase. They can sit in the parking lot, they can capture all your data, and they can decrypt it, because they know the passphrase, they can create the keys, right? And a lot of you are sat there going, oh, yes. You've got to use a serious level of length and complexity. I think NIST are recommending passwords and passphrases should be like 20 characters today. Now, the problem is if you have a 20-character pre-shared key, it's the first thing the users are going to do. Write it on a yellow sticky, stick it on the under the keyboard if you're lucky, on the monitor if you're not lucky, right? So remember, all of these are very inconvenient. Inconvenient is a hacker's best friend. Okay. We talk about the four-way handshake, and what happens is the AP sends down a random number, the client sends a random number, and each side needs the PMK, the other side and its random number, the other side and its MAC addresses. It mixes them all together and it creates a unique key. Every time you connect, you get a unique pairwise transit key. Always. Okay? The problem is, if you were using WPA2 personal passphrase, everybody's using the same passphrase, everybody's using the same PMK. So if you were connected with a PMK, with personal, we're all using the same one. So you can decrypt each other's traffic, right? So if you use WPA2 personal, everyone, every time they connect, has the same PSK, therefore they have the same PMK. If you break your passphrase, I own your network if I break it. I own your network today, yesterday, and forever, until you change the passphrase. Short passphrases are very easy to crack. Alternative is what I call IT PSK. Only the IT department has the pre-shared key. Okay, so only the IT department has the pre-shared key. You've got to take your equipment down to the IT department. They set it up for you. They onboard you and they offboard you and so on. Okay. Now there's no need to decommission users' devices because. Sorry, you need to decommission the user's devices before they leave, or you need to have some kind of MDM platform running where you can wipe the device if they leave and it wipes the keys and everything from them. That means when users leave, they have to bring their devices to you, hand them in, and you will decommission. Okay? You still need to use a serious length and complexity, but no one knows the passphrase. There's a little something I mentioned in the last class. How many of you have children? How many of you have had your children's friends over to your house in the last year? All your kids' friends know your pre-shared key, right? Yeah. Smarter than the average person. Yeah. You probably have several pre-shared keys, one for the kids, one for you.
Yeah, my kids are on their own network. I don't share Wi-Fi.
Same as me, right? Same as me. I have my Wi-Fi. The kids can, it doesn't matter if the kids give it to their friends, because it's not really anything important on that Wi-Fi network. That's the back end where you have two separate networks. Absolutely perfect, yes. All right, but remember, all of these are very inconvenient. Right? The other alternative is to use different formats of, it's called personal pre-shared key, multiple pre-shared key, individual pre-shared key, whatever. Basically what happens is you have multiple keys on the network. Now, if it's a small network, you can have one key for like IoT devices and one key for groups, one key for accounting, one key for sales, and so on and so forth. It kind of gets a problem when you get to a large number of keys, and then you have to include some kind of special server on the back end. And if you're going to go to all that trouble, you may as well just use WPA2 Enterprise. Okay. But it's better than the alternatives. And with this one, if you have an individual level key given to people, when they leave, all you do is you delete their key, and then you haven't got to decommission the machine at all. It doesn't matter. This is useful if you have a lot of what's called BYOD, where people bring their own devices in and connect to the network. If you are using WPA2 EAP Radius, it's using the EAP process. It runs between the client, the supplicant, and the Radius server, called the authentication server. Okay, the Radius server. The authenticator is the wireless LAN controller, the cloud controller, the APs, which acts as the middle, acts in the middle of this and passes the information through. So WPA2 Enterprise, it requires the use of EAP or Radius. You will have to use certificates unless you use the Cisco variant. Devices will need to be onboarded because you have to install a certificate on the devices so it can use the certificate that is presented to it during the process. Can be very inconvenient. Arguably the safest mode of Wi-Fi security today. Pause for dramatic effect. When configured correctly, right? Very important. Problem with Enterprise is users can simply click continue or OK when presented with an invalid certificate. So I can, I can jam your Wi-Fi network. I can present your SSID on my AP as your Wi-Fi network. I'm jamming yours. The users see mine. They connect to it. Okay. They try and connect. You're smart. You've got WPA2 Enterprise running. It connects to my network and it says, oh, we've changed the certificate. Are you happy to install the new certificate? 95% of users, sure. Even if you tell them not to, right? Google Pixel, we did some testing on this a while back. The Google Pixel was, I'm sorry, I'm not letting you do that, Dave, in 2001. The Google Pixel would not let us reinstall a new certificate that was invalid. Yay, Google, right? So the application vendors and the device vendors are starting to bring in common sense. Like if you install a certificate, they're like, you're not allowed to install it. Or when you install it, they allow you to flag, do not allow this to be installed unless by a sysadmin. In the four-way handshake, if you were using WPA2 Enterprise, the PMK is gotten from the MSK, which is always unique. So you will always have a unique PMK when you use WPA2 Enterprise, which is lovely because now there's no point in me trying to attack your PMK. It might take me 3 months to decrypt it or guess it, and I've only got the 2 hours on a Monday morning before you went for your early lunch. Okay? Whereas with pre-shared key, if I break your PMK, I own your network for all time until you change the key. So WPA2 Enterprise is much better and much more secure. Enter WPA3, magical unicorns and stuff. It is the solution to all your problems. Okay? Super duper mega awesome. This is a, speak to me later if you want to know where to get from. This is a free download you can get that will show you the length of time it would take to break a password of a known string length and complexity with a certain number of processing power. Okay. So what's wrong with WPA2? You're 20 years old, very susceptible to deauthentication attacks. There are four-way handshake attacks. I can capture your passphrase from the parking lot of your building, then I can go home and try and break your key. I do not have to be present to break your key. Okay, that's huge. If it takes me 2 weeks, I can do it with my feet up on the sofa, watching episodes of Mr. Robot on the TV, drinking my coffee or my cocktails, whatever. Okay, it's easy to do. WPA2 allows you to not use security. Here I mean encryption. That's no, think Luke, I am your father. Kind of no. Crack has been available for quite a while now. Been able to break WPA2. This is a little riddle I made to do Ethereum mining a couple of years back. I already told you guys and gals who came to the hacking session. It cost me about $2,500. I think for anyone who follows crypto, I think I just made my money back this last week, right? Yeah. If anyone doesn't know, crypto's doing that again. It'll probably do that again very quickly. So whatever. Cost me about $2,500. I totally made my money back. It doesn't make me any money now because it doesn't cover the electric bill. Do you know what it's really good at doing? Maths, right? Do you know what you? That's the next upgrade project. What you need to break keys is things that are really good at maths. Now, I created an 8-character password on a sample network called Candy123. Capital C, ANDY 123. If anyone knows about this, it's password number 700,000 in the rocku.txt, which anyone that uses Kali knows about. Right? I used it for the reason that it was only 700,000 in, and I did an attack on the network, tried to break it with a dictionary attack, and it took 4 minutes on my Apple running VMware. and it took 6 minutes on my Raspberry Pi 4 running Kali Linux. Okay, I then let this baby have a go at it as a brute force attack. Brute force, Candy 1 to 3, uppercase, lowercase, numeric, 25 seconds. 25 seconds. Now, I used Hashcam. Okay. I don't know the significance of Candy 1 to 3 being at the low end of the alphabet, capital C, in lowercase a n d y 1 to 3. That was probably a very easy string to use. Okay, I don't want to leave it running for 3 months. I just don't want to do that. It does get very, very warm. But 25 seconds, right? So you probably did use more than 8 character passwords. Now, I did ask it to do a search on a string, and I told it that it was a 12 character password, and it told me, it tells you how long it's going to take, and it told me it was going to take 9 months to, at most, to break the password. Okay, when I made it 15 characters, I think it was like 100 years or something, because it's exponential. As it gets longer, it's exponential. These are available. I didn't bring them with me today. I walk around with this. This guy just simply collects pre-shared keys. Collects four-way handshakes that I can then use to break the pre-shared key. It connects the four-way handshakes, and I can try and calculate what the pre-shared key was and the PMK that was used. Okay, it's a bit naughty. Be careful if you have one. Don't ever use one on a military base, in a police department, or in an airport, because if it's in naughty mode, it will disconnect. It will do a de-authentication attack on everybody in the network to make them reconnect so it can capture the four-way handshake, right? Which is kind of frowned upon in certain circles. Any government or like, don't try it in the DMV, whatever you do. This, who's got a flipper? Yes, right? Parents are buying these for the kids today. The flipper's got an add-on pack you can install that does most of the attacks I've told you about. It's like, wow, right? How do we fix the problem? There must be a solution. This is 2022. We're talking about sending people to Mars, just checking the time. We've got self-driving cars. Our phones have got more raw power than 1960 supercomputers. Do you know you've got more raw processing power in your iPhone than what took the space shuttle, what took Apollo to the moon and back, and what took the space shuttle into orbit? You've probably got more processing power in your Apple Watch than what took, like a 386 processor that took the space shuttles up into orbit, right? NASA tends to hold on to things because they work well. NASA don't like using brand new technology until it's proven. And the solution, I'm afraid, is to use strong and long passwords. That's it. That's all, folks. That's all we can do. So the time has come for something new. And let's go back to WPA3, and the answer to all the problems, the answer to, Phil, how do I fix the problems you've said today, is WPA3. Okay? It's the next step, the next generation Wi-Fi spoofing from Wi-Fi Alliance, enhanced, robust, super. It disallows you using the old protocols. It says, no, you're not allowed to use the old protocols. It requires, mandates the use of 802.11w protected management frames. So you can't do de-authentication attacks. We have transition mode to make it easy for you all. While you go from what you got now to WPA3, you've got transition mode. That is not actually a good thing. I'll tell you about it in a minute. Okay. What's the problem with transition mode? Anybody?
Downgrade attack?
Yes, it's susceptible to downgrade attack. But the main problem with WPA2 transition mode is it allows you to not use WPA3, right? So I'm going to use WPA3, but I'm going to use transition mode. And the hacker says, I can't do WPA3. And your entire Wi-Fi network goes, oh, it's okay. Let's use WPA2. That is susceptible to all the attacks I just told you about. So you've got this super duper security system that a hacker can turn off by saying, I don't want to use WPA3. That's the problem with transition mode. Okay. Transition mode is no less secure than WPA2 was. Okay. Did you know the question? So It gives you more protection. WPA3 gives you more protection regardless of password complexity. There's another thing coming, gives you easy onboarding of IoT and Wi-Fi networks. Higher level protection in open networks, we'll get to that in a minute. And for the truly paranoid, the military, government, and I'm being a bit flippant, but they need it. 192-bit security, which is even more difficult to break than the 128-bit security everybody else uses. A couple of things you know about WPA3. You need to have a basic understanding, and Wikipedia will work with Diffie-Hellman, elliptic curve Diffie-Hellman, SAE, and OWE. OWE is open wireless encryption. It is not a part of WPA3, but it comes with it. It's like WPA3's little sister. It comes with it. As of 2020, WPA3, and today it's around, WPA3 is mandatory required for Wi-Fi 6 certification. And you'll see if you want to use 6 gigahertz, it only supports WPA3. WPA3 personnel due to resistance to offline dictionary attacks. Stronger protection against password guessing attempts. Protection for users using stupid, easily guessable passwords. Okay, and you know they will. It gives you forward secrecy, which means that if I capture data today and I guess or I work out and find out what your key is next Wednesday, I can't decrypt the data I captured today. So I have total forward secrecy. It doesn't matter when in the future I learn your key, because the pre-shared key is completely independent of the encryption keys, which is genius. I'm really excited about that, as you may tell. Okay. The changes are invisible to users. However, your devices need to support it. Okay. The passphrase just provides authentication. SAE replaces the pre-shared key. SAE will negotiate the PMK, then it runs the four-way handshake on the PMK. It is resilient, passive, active, and offline dictionary attack. Fixes all the problems I've told you is wrong with WPA2. Okay. As I mentioned, as of July 2022, WPA3 support is mandated for Wi-Fi 6 certification and 6 gigahertz operation. So now, going back to the four-way handshake, remember the four-way handshake is what creates the key from the PMK. Okay. If you do a Google of SAE, you get this, which is all about oil. Right. Not that SAE, a different type of SAE. It's actually based on the Dragonfly exchange. On Wikipedia, there's a good explanation of this. I don't want to go over time. It's very simply, it uses Diffie-Hellman. Diffie-Hellman mixes paint. Okay, you pick a secret paint, pick a common paint, you mix them together, you send them over the network. That's much easier than explaining logarithmic mathematics of, I forgot what they call, what are numbers you can't, only divisible with themselves in one? Prime numbers, logarithmic prime numbers. See, I've forgotten it already. You have to assume that the reverse engineering of the color that was transmitted across the network is impossible or very difficult. Now, you're like, fair, red and yellow make orange, but what exact hue, tint, shade of the 46 bazillion different colors of orange? When you walk into Home Depot and or any other store and say, I want orange paint, they'll be like, okay, which one? And they point like at 100 different cans of different tins of orange paint, right? That's the point. You don't know the exact color of orange. So just understand that Diffie-Hellman allows an open network to create unique keys known only to Bob and Alice. It's always Bob and Alice, isn't it? Alice and Bob, right? The two ends of the link. Now, all you need to know is it uses finite field discrete logarithms, x to the power of y modulus p. You don't need to know about it because you don't use it anymore anyway. Okay? We use elliptic curve Diffie-Hellman. Can I have an ooh? Ooh. Come on, I need an ooh now. Ooh. Thank you very much. Elliptic curve Diffie-Hellman, all you need to know is it's faster and easier to do than discrete logarithm maths Diffie-Hellman, which means that your IoT devices that you just bought, how many have you got, like Philips Hue lights or outdoor devices? Yes. So they are going to be using elliptic curve because it's too complex to use finite mathematics. Right? And the point is, you can calculate a point on a curve knowing the algorithm and the number of times you run the algorithm. Given a point on a curve, you do not know the algorithm or the number of times the algorithm was run. So it's infinitely more difficult to reverse engineer elliptic curve Diffie-Hellman than it is to reverse engineer finite mathematics Diffie-Hellman. That's all you need to know. Okay, if you want to do some more research, go look up on the internet. Wikipedia is a good place to start. So WPA3 during the authentication phase uses the Diffie-Hellman, elliptic curve Diffie-Hellman to create the PMK. So let's stop, time out for a minute. Normal Wi-Fi, authenticate, associate, then do security, right? WPA3 during the authentication phase, it does the Diffie-Hellman exchange. It is very, very important you understand one very, very important thing at this point. Diffie-Hellman gives you an encrypted link between two entities that's 100% secure, but it doesn't authenticate either of the entities. So when you use Diffie-Hellman, even elliptic curve Diffie-Hellman, when you use WPA3 SAE, you have this beautiful encrypted link to the access point, but you don't know whose access point it is, and the access point doesn't know who you are. So it mixes in the pre-shared key as an attribute to cause authentication during the process. Okay, so the pre-shared key is used to authenticate you, but it is not used to create the PMK. Then you have a standard authentication, and now everybody, every time they connect, have a unique PMK, and they will have a unique PTK, which makes WPA3 effectively unbreakable at this time. It's only a matter of time before hackers come up with hacks. Right? So WPA2 is not breakable by breaking the protocol. You break the pre-shared key method. Does everybody understand that? AES encryption is wonderful. It's the method that WPA2 used that was the problem. So the SAE process runs, and the result is the PMK that gives you the PTK, which means you are golden. Everything's good. WPA3 Enterprise, in fact, WPA3 Enterprise is not that much of a change to WPA2 Enterprise. Do you have a question, sorry? Okay, thank you. WPA3 Enterprise is WPA2 Enterprise with PMF. It's just with PMF, that's it. But of course, your devices have to support it. So you still need device support, but it's not really that difficult to bring in. And I've just shown you now that there are now 3 options to run. You've got with security, and you've got open without security, and you've got open with security, okay, which is OWE, which we're going to get on to next. OWE is a new open system. When you go to the coffee shop, it's an open system, okay? And what happens is during the association phase, it runs an elliptic curve in Diffie-Hellman, and it creates the PMK for you. So you're at Starbucks, it's an open network, and you still have encrypted data, which is just lovely. But it needs device support, of course, right? So it came with WPA3, and devices have to support it. WPA3 is everywhere. I run it in my house totally. I have Eero, I have Netgear. I run it on them. Works really well. What I want to cover last thing then is the problem we have is WPA3 and OWE are mandatory on 6 gigahertz. For a guest network on 6 gigahertz, it cannot be open. It has to be OWE. Okay. You should have no problems with compatibility, because if the devices support 6 gigahertz, they will support OWE and WPA3. The problem is on 2.4 gigahertz and 5 gigahertz, you have WPA2, or you have WPA3, or you have transition mode. And to cut to the chase, if you are running WPA3 on 6 gigahertz, and you were running anything but WPA3 on 2.4 and 5 gigahertz, what happens is the clients will disconnect when they roam between the frequencies. Okay, they'll disconnect. So all your users will be complaining at you. Okay, so the recommended solution is to run more SSIDs. So you have an SSID that's the same. Current best practice is to not have the same SSID on 2.4 and 5 gigahertz. Recommended practices today are suggesting that we run the same SSID on 6 gigahertz and 5 gigahertz, and then put it as WPA3. Okay, and then if you, for all the old clients that you don't want, make them be. You can make them be WPA3 transition if you want to. It doesn't matter, because they won't roam to 6 gigahertz anyway. Get it? Okay, and so that, and same for guest. So if you're gonna have a guest network on 6 gigahertz, have it running OWE. We'll have the guest networks on 5 gigahertz, also running OWE. We'll have another one called guest legacy, and that will find out all the devices that won't support WPA3, and then you can upgrade them over there. And it does take time. So summary, these are all the options we have today. I just told you these are all easy to break. I think I've run out of time, so I will tell you that these are the ones that I can break. All of them, including WPA2 and including WPA3. And they may cut me off, so I might not be able to tell you how I do it, but if you come to the training class in January or the next session that we're planning to do in summer, I'll show you. But I'll give you a hint. If they are not configured correctly, right? The dumbest thing you can do, there's probably some dumber things you can do. Dumbest thing you can do as a wireless administrator is click the checkbox that says do not validate the certificate. That is a very bad thing to do. Okay, WEP is more secure than that network is now, just to let you know. Okay, and I think that's bringing me to the end. Tips: use the WIPs. A WIPs will detect people trying to attack you. Use some kind of DNS like Cisco Umbrella or something. So if you get infected and there's a call out to the command and control server, the DNS server says, no, I'm not letting you go to nastyhackersite.com or whatever. Okay. And then turn on WPA3 with technical management frames today. Turn on WPA3. If you have to have WPA2, do what I suggested earlier. Run it as 2 different SSIDs. Use long pass phases. Don't use transition mode. Okay. Different SSID for each frequency. Remember the exception of 5 gigahertz. Use a different SSID for WPA2 and WPA3. I went to a customer site recently, which will remain nameless. I did a little pen test on their Wi-Fi network, and I broke into the WPA3 network. Do you know how I did it? They had the same passphrases they had in the WPA2 network that was easy to break. I couldn't break the WPA3 network, but they will rather foolishly use the same passphrase. All right? So watch out for that. Today, seriously considering TLS, and I think that's my time. Microsoft says, by the way, don't use EPEEP anymore. Cool, I think we're done. One last thing. If you want a copy of this slide set, you can email cs@ncexpert.com. We'll give you a copy of the slide set, but our salespeople will haunt you for all time, of course. That's the deal, right? Thank you very much.